All right. Guess I'm live. Mavs fans, come on with the chat. Season ends. Clippers are, it's interesting. I think they're way better than us. But I'm happy that the Mavs won 3 in the series. Today wasn't very competitive. I was afraid of that after having your opportunity in Game 6. But this is I'm hoping the way that I came into this series was a no-lose series for the Mavericks because I didn't believe they were good enough to really do anything. But if they did, if they would have won this series and gone on and played Utah and played great against Utah, let's say you lose that series in 6 or 7, but you're really close. You're like, man, close games, won a couple, won maybe even 3 of them. You'd go, hey. These guys are just like a little bit maturing. Like if you could just mature a little bit, just add a little tweak here and there, maybe they can get over the top in the Western Conference and maybe win the NBA Finals in a couple years, something like that. But the no-lose was this. Mark Cuban and Donnie Nelson in that order, and then Rick Carlisle. I know Rick Carlisle doesn't make most of the moves. He gives his suggestions. It's Mark and Donnie who make the transactions. They have to look at this and go, all right, we're not good enough. We're not close to good enough. I get it. We took them to 7 and then got blown out. It's very similar to the Dallas Mavericks was that 2014, guys, if I have my year right, when Vince Carter hit the big shot, you took San Antonio to 7 games, and then San Antonio won by a whole bunch of points. That team wasn't close to a championship. Now, the difference is we do have one of the greatest players in basketball history, not even yet entering his prime here. But I think that's where we're at, Mavs fans, is hopefully this is the wake-up call. And I don't know if wake-up call is the right thing. It's just that this is now confirmation. They let the team play in the bubble last year, short off season. Not sure about Porzingis because he didn't play last year in the playoffs. You got the season with Porzingis. He has 2.5 years now in Dallas. And then this year was horrible in the playoffs. Everybody out-rebounded Porzingis tonight. The only time he got a rebound is when it wasn't contested. If there was anybody around him, he lost the rebound. It didn't matter if it was Reggie Jackson, Nicholas Batum. He was not going to get the rebound if there was another person around him. So I am done with Porzingis. If you listen to me on 105.3 The Fan, I'm sure you're like, yeah, Mike, I know. But there was hope. I have no hope. I know that the Mavs are going to sell hope if they can't trade him. Don't worry. But he's not a good basketball player. He is a role player. He's a fourth or fifth man on a competitive championship contending team, which is fine. That's what he is. Unfortunately, we paid him a whole bunch. He's not untradeable. I know people will tell me he's untradeable. Everybody can get traded in the NBA. Now, if you want to go get a second star with him or a third good player, no, you're probably not. But if you want to go to Sacramento, if maybe you really want Rashawn Holmes in free agency and you'd like to work out a sign and trade, you could do like Rashawn Holmes for Kristaps Porzingis, and hopefully they'd throw in Marvin Bagley. But I think Holmes is a better player than Porzingis. He's going to get us more rebounds. He's going to play better defense. Porzingis doesn't bring you much offensively anyways. He can't dribble. He can't really create his own shot. It's all off of Luka that he can do anything. So let's see here. Mike, can you imagine if we had signed Randall? Well, yeah, that was a couple years ago. But we didn't. Kept Barnes and Curry. Yeah, I mean, now we kind of have to look forward. I see a Jacques, that was the first one I read, but we have to look to now. We can't look back. Obviously, the Porzingis trade was a bad trade overall. I won't say bad. It didn't help us out near as much as we thought. If we could have used at the time Dennis Smith Jr., 2 first-round picks, and DeAndre Jordan and Wesley Matthews. I know those were the 2 main guys. And then we did trade Harrison Barnes for a bag of nothing to Sacramento to get rid of his salary going forward. So we moved $60 million in expiring contracts somewhat, 2 first-round picks, a second-year player who was the 9th pick overall, and we got Porzingis, who's going to give you 12 points and 5 rebounds in the playoffs, and Tim Hardaway Jr., who this is why I'm not as big a fan as a lot of people are on Hardaway Jr. He's a good player to have on your team, but you cannot rely on him to be one of your major scorers because he will go ice cold on you when you really need him to be hot, and that's fine. You know who is their Tim Hardaway Jr. on the Clippers? Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson doesn't have to be great for the Clippers to win. He was today. He was, to start game 6 out. I get it. But, they have plenty of guys that can contribute. So we don't. I mean, this is a one-man team with a couple of good role players and a bunch of guys that should be playing 12 to 15 minutes a game or not in the NBA. Trey Burke shouldn't be ever on a basketball court in a playoff game for the most part, unless it's last year was a total surprise. He did it. It was awesome for him. He got some more money to play basketball in his life, but Trey Burke can't play in this league. Multiple teams have released him, and that's where he is. And I don't want to blame anything on Trey Burke. He should never be on the court, but Rick had to do something. I would have loved to have seen him. I know a lot of people are hating on Rick Carlisle in the chat. I think he's very limited. He's having to play freaking Boban. You think Boban plays on any other team in the playoffs? That's what we have because we have Dwight Powell, Kleba, Porzingis, and Boban. Those are our 4 bigs on the whole team. That's it. That's all we have. And I guess Melly, if you want to include Melly. That's horrible. That is just a pathetic group of big men to have to choose from that you need to put a lot of times 2 of those guys on the court. And then your guys on the bench if Kleba's starting, which no way in the world should Kleba ever start for a contending team. He should come off the bench for 12 to 20 minutes a night. But you start Kleba, you start Porzingis. One is a borderline starter in the playoffs in Porzingis. The other in Kleba should never start an NBA playoff game. Boban should never play in NBA playoff games for the most part. And then you have Powell and Melly, who are towel waivers. They're Bill Winningtons on the Dallas Mavericks and Uwe Blob in 1988. It's what they are. They're not good enough to play NBA quality minutes in the playoffs, and that was proven in this series. Okay, let's see here. Let me go to the chat. They blew it in game 3. Rick blew it by killing the momentum at 28-11. Nick, I understand. I'm sure Rick would look back at that and go, I don't know the result if I leave Luka in, but I know the result by taking him out. And at times you do have to get a guy rest at some point. But, yeah, I'm sure Rick second guesses that and goes, it was wrong. I shouldn't have done it. But he is limited in his ability to pick players on this team because there's not much talent here. This is a very non-talented team. This is one of the worst teams in the NBA. Like if I took Luka and put him on the Houston Rockets, it's about the same talent. Now, I can't take anybody off. I need Christian Wood on that team. I need Porter Jr. I need John Wall. In fact, if I just put him on that team, when just naming that, if I give Luka John Wall and I give him Kevin Porter Jr. and Christian Wood and a couple of the other guys, isn't that a better team? Let's be serious here, Mavericks fans. Isn't that a better team? If I put him on the Oklahoma City Thunder, now I need to bring Horford back. I give him Al Horford, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Dort, a couple of their other young players. Is that a worse team than the Dallas Mavericks? I mean, they're picking first and second. You tell me on the text here. I just put him on the Oklahoma City Thunder and Houston Rockets, and I think I can't take anybody off of that team. Like if I trade one of their players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and put him here in Dallas, we're a 30-win team. We're 30-52. But if I put him on Oklahoma City, he does the same thing in Oklahoma City for the most part that he did here. He's going to be over 500, get killed in the first round, and that's what you have. But if I keep Shai there and I just put him on there, I think the Mavericks have a better chance. If you were to just trade your whole team for Oklahoma City's whole team, you keep Luka, I think now you have a better team. I don't even need any of their draft picks. I just say, I'll just take all your players for all my players, and I think I have a better situation. Same with the Houston Rockets. That's how great I think Luka is and how horrible that this team is around Luka. Donnie and Cubes are risk takers, wildcatters. 80% of their moves will fail hard, like KP. 20% will hit big, like Luka. They lose depth, taking bad risks and losing. That's from Marcellus. Okay, I mean, I don't really disagree with that, but I'm going to have faith that they're going to move KP. They're going to, if Josh Richardson opts in to his $11 million, which if I was him, that's an interesting situation because I might not opt in. And I get it. Like he might not get 11 million next year, but maybe if a team gives him 2 years, 18 million, he'd rather do that than maybe stay here and have another below average year. And then he goes into the market having 2 bad years back to back with Philadelphia, really not liking what he had to bring to the table there. And I'm surprised by that, guys. I'm wrong. I'm going to try to admit when I was wrong. I try to do this. I'm not right on all my opinions. What I'm saying right now ultimately might be wrong on the Houston Rockets or Oklahoma City Thunder or Kristaps Porzingis. But Josh Richardson was a bad trade. I was wrong about that. I'm not saying Seth Curry would have not won this series. He would have still lost the series. Still lost the series if that trade's not made. But we didn't get any better with Josh Richardson. Curry is an overall better player than Josh Richardson. He's a better role player. But that being said, that trade did not break this team. It obviously did not make this team. Hopefully Josh Richardson opts out. That gives us more money to play with this offseason. Nick K, they definitely need an aggressive rebounder and rim protector, also a second shooter and a third shooter. My God, Yeah, I know that I bet this. I bet a lot of Maverick fans like Brunson, and I do like the value you get from him on a second-round contract. Next year is his last year on his rookie deal, I believe. I'm like 99% sure like he gets like $2 million next year, or maybe a little more than that. But he's a backup part in the NBA, but a very good backup, if you get what I'm saying. 30 starting point guards. If you just had a draft of let's rank the 30 point guards in the NBA, these all get to start for you. And then we go to 31 through 60. I think right at the end of the first round, everybody gets to pick a starting point guard. I think Luka gets picked first. And then Brunson would be one of the last picks in the first round. So I do think he's better than a few starting point guards in the NBA, and that's it. So when they say he's untradeable, when the Mavericks threw out there, we won't trade him unless we get a superstar back. Brunson's not that good. You can replace him easily. Just being honest, I get it. Good guy, great worker, championship pedigree from Villanova. Just a guy. He's just a guy in the NBA. Reggie Jackson's better than him. Rondo, to me, is better than him right now. And Patrick Beverley's on par with him. They're about the same in like that draft pick. So over there, and I think Terrence Mann is better, even though he's not really a point guard, right? So that's maybe not fair. But if I want to include Terrence Mann, they have 4 guards better than Brunson. But we got to keep them untradeable. That's what I am afraid of that. I hope it doesn't happen. Tim Hardaway Jr., let me get to this. Tim Hardaway Jr., once it gets over $15 million per year, he made 18.5 approximately this year. Once the bidding gets over 15, I'm going to be really scared. And I think the Mavs are going to give him 4 for 80, and I think that's going to be a mistake, just to be honest with you. And he's a good player. If he's on the team next year, he's not going to hurt you. He's a good, positive player on a team. I do think a team's going to overpay for him, and I think it will be the Mavs. I think the Mavs are going to give him 4 for 80, which he's not worth that. He is a 5th to 6th player on a contending team. He's not a top 90 player in the NBA. Let's be honest here. Top 90 player, that would mean if you are somewhere between 61 and 90, you're the 3rd best player on a team. He's not. So that's the tough thing about this Hardaway situation that we have coming up is I know that they love him. I get it. I like him. I'd love it if we got him with right now approximately $30 million of free agent money. And if Josh Richardson will opt out, you get about $40 million approximately. Okay. It might be a little bit less. Like it might be $32 million. It might be a little more. It might be like $42 million if Richardson opts out. Is after $15 million, you are overpaying and not getting back value. He would be of a bad value to you. 16.5, I can settle on that and be like, okay, but in big moments, he can get really cold on you, and he's really I get it. He drives to the basket a little bit off of great Luka passes where they close out hard. He's not like shake, bake, it's just that he's like catch, pump fake. They ran at me, go to the basket most of the time, especially in quality games. What you do against Sacramento Kings, bad example for our Mavs. What you do against the Houston Rockets or Oklahoma City or Sacramento Kings in the regular season, it matters, but then what do you do in the playoffs? It defines, can you help championship teams? And we have one guy who can truly do it, Luka, and then who can help? Here's where I'll do this. And I'll get to – sorry, I know that you guys are doing a great job on the chat. Thank you so much. I know Spike is here. We need more defense. And Ricky, Tyrell Terry, hopefully he can help next year. And we're going to talk for a while here because this is it, guys, for the season. But, yeah, it's a tough situation. You're not happy. I'm not happy. They lost. I think the thing is the only reason we had a chance is because of Luka. That's it. It's the only reason we had a chance is Luka is that great. But Luka obviously is a championship number one on any team in the NBA. Like if you started with him, teams would say, we got a chance to win it all. If we have a draft, everybody's a free agent. Luka's going to be one of the first 5 guys taken, if not at his age, number 1. He'd probably be taken number 1 overall. If we had a draft today to start the NBA all over again, he would be the number 1 pick because of his age and what he's already been able to accomplish. So you'd say we have a great chance to win a championship because we have the best young player in the game, maybe not the best player overall right now, but should have a good 12 years of greatness left in him, and then we'll see, if he can play in his mid-30s at a premium level. Next, let's go to Porzingis. Porzingis is a 4th guy on a championship team. 4th guys get about 24 to 30 minutes a night. You're not relying on them too much. You can take them out. You can kind of replace them. If you don't like the matchup, the Clippers decided we don't like Zubac in this series. Maybe they'll like him more against Rudy Gobert in the next series. I bet he's going to have to play a lot more against him, but we'll see how he does there. But, he's their 4th, 5th guy. And so you're like, hey, we don't need him. We want him, but we have enough depth here that we can play a different style and win without him possibly causing us some issues because he's a matchup issue if the way the Mavericks were attacking Zubac in pick and roll and the way that, Porzingis can't rebound, Porzingis can't create his own shot, Porzingis wasn't ever hot in this series. So, he's a 4th guy. Next guy, Dorian Finney-Smith. Great guy off the bench for 15 minutes a night. Great game today. I'm not taking that away from him. I'm not taking away from him what he did in game 1. He had a great defensive game in game 5. He is a good 7th man on a championship contending team. Great value at $4 million next year too. Great value player, 7th man on a contending team. If he's starting, that's fine, but your 6th guy needs to be better than him and play more minutes than that guy. I understand sometimes you don't start your best 5. He should not be on your best 5 guys, but great value in his contract. Next guy, Tim Hardaway Jr., great 5th or 6th guy on a championship team. I'd love to have him as a guy off the bench who can light it up. If he's not lighting it up, it's okay. I have 2 to 3 other guys who can score, and they're my main scorers. I have 2, and really I want 3 other guys before Hardaway Jr. is my turn 2 go-to scorer. And if he's hot, things can change in a game. All of a sudden, my 3rd scorer, I'm like, hey, you're going to have to back off tonight because he's hot. He knows it. So, give me a little bit more, give me a little bit, more defense, whatever it means. But he's on fire right now, and we're going to feed the fire. But when he's ice cold, take him out of the game. Don't have to use him that much. It was like, man, you're Vinnie Johnson, you're, whoever. I know that's not a great comparison, J.R. Smith, Swaggy P, but that's Tim Hardaway Jr. So that's I've gone through 4 guys. Kleba 0 minutes to 20 minutes in playoff games. It just matters the matchup, matters the situation, hard worker, good guy. I don't know how many. I think a lot of teams would like him, and they'd like him for 12 to 15 minutes a night on a playoff team, right? 12 to 15 minutes. But, most of the time we have to start him and play him 30-plus minutes. Josh Richardson, I can't believe how bad he became in this series. how tough of a season he had. I thought he'd be better. He wasn't terrible, but I think he's playing his way after what he did in Philadelphia and now Dallas. He's playing his way into an 8th-man role in the NBA. Then we get to Brunson. Brunson's a backup point guard. Backup point guards play 12 to 20 minutes a night. Sometimes in playoffs you only get 10 minutes a night. But, he's really not a great point guard because when we take Luka out, our offense goes to crap. And part of that is he doesn't have a lot of guys to feed either. When he's on the court with Dwight Powell, who I haven't got to, who should never play, right? I mean, Dwight Powell, great energy, great guy. But, he's not an NBA-like player in the playoffs. But when you have Brunson and Powell and Dorian Finney-Smith and Kleba and, who else? Josh Richardson on the court or Tim Hardaway Jr., you're kind of screwed because not only is Jalen not much of a scorer, but now he's not much of a passer either. He's not bad at it. He's a backup point guard, but he has a lot of pressure on him in those situations, and he's not talented enough to do those things. So those are my takes on kind of the main guys on this team. Let's see here. Yvonne Dominguez, man, thanks for joining me again. How did Brunson lose Carlisle's trust? He wasn't able to do anything in the series for the most part. He's a smaller guy that is not quick. He's strong, not a great shooter, average at best from 3. But I hear you. He really – and in this game, he couldn't take Luka out. Luka played all 24 minutes of the second half because we were losing by so much. But – Brunson's a backup, and that's what he is. And I'd love if we could get something of better value for him because I'm hoping, as somebody put earlier, and I forget the name, that, Tyrell Terry was the 31st overall pick, same as Brunson. It would be great if you could move Brunson and other pieces to get a better piece, and you'd say, hey, Tyrell Terry, this is, kind of your first year in the NBA, didn't do much this year. You go to summer league, you have a training camp, improve your body, improve your game a little bit. And we're asking you to play 12 to 15 minutes a night next year because we had to move Brunson and other pieces to get a number 2 or number 3 player. And we're not going to get a real number 2, guys. I'm just going to be honest with you. We are not getting a real number 2 in this offseason. We don't have enough assets that can do that. But we got to get somebody better than Porzingis, Finney-Smith, Hardaway Jr., whoever you think the number 2 guy is on this team. And that can really help the Dallas Mavericks because literally, Luka has to do everything on his own. Logan, does Rick have what it takes to get us back to the second round? I do. I think he's very limited. I think he's very limited with this. This is not a talented team. This is a very poor talent team. And Rick, I think, is doing better than you guys think, but I understand. I'm not like here going, Rick's the greatest ever in the world. I think he's a very good coach. I want to keep him as long as Luka wants him. If Luka were to say, I don't want him, then you have to go in another direction. But, yeah, he's limited. What do you want him to do with KP? I know people are blaming Rick for KP. What do you want him to do? KP can't – when we threw the ball in and Hardaway got the flagrant foul at the end, that showed you all you needed to know about Porzingis. He can't hold his position. It was an easy steal. He's horrible. He's a horrible post-up guy. He can't dribble quickly, and he can't dribble and make any moves with the ball. He's Sean Bradley. He's like a little bit better version of Sean Bradley. So that's the guy that we maxed out. Sean Bradley, the next Sean Bradley, the ghost is what I call KP because he disappears. So I get it with your Rick Carlisle hate, but KP and Brunson for Marcus Smart and Kemba Walker. That comes from It's Blue. Hey, I like what you're thinking there. Money-wise, what I'd like to do too is include Dwight Powell and get Robert Williams just so we get a big guy in that. And I'd have to run – I've ran the numbers. I know that KP, Brunson, and Powell for Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, and Robert Williams does work. So I would even do that. If it was KP and Brunson for Smart and Kemba Walker, I would do that. J. Rich wasn't the biggest disappointment. From Kevin. J. Rich was the biggest disappointment. Yeah. Well, KP's really ticked off. We said that, though. He's like, come on, guys. Wasn't I pathetic? And he was. So, Yeah, Jay Rich just never was able to establish himself as a good player on this team this year. At best, he was like, hey, I'm filling the role of 12 points and playing some decent defense, but I don't know, hopefully he's not back next year. And I was a big Jay Rich fan. I really like that trade, but I was wrong. Hopefully he's gone. KP doesn't even like Luka. That's true, from Brandon Hunter. And it might not be KP. I don't think Luka likes KP. So the other way around about KP and not liking Luka, I think there's truth there too, but I'm not sure. But I can't. It's not like Luka told me or Luka's mom told me or somebody like that. But you can tell Luka is not a fan of the wuss, and he wants to play with a stronger mentality, guy that he can count on, reliable. KP's not that guy, and it ticks off Luka that KP is the guy that he's trying to, be the second guy because he knows he's not it. Hopefully the Mavericks realize we got to move KP. We're not going to get Bradley Beal. We're not going to get all these people. People say we're not going to get a good player for him. Realize this, Maverick fans. We're not going to get a can't-miss good player for KP. When we move him, we're moving an issue that other teams see as we think we can figure him out, but we don't want to give up the world. Like Kemba Walker is an issue for the Boston Celtics. Kemba Walker in Boston is their Kristaps Porzingis. They're like, what the hell happened to you? We thought we were getting a stud from Charlotte, and you're not playing like it. And maybe the fits, and maybe they look at KP in Boston and go, we need better size, which he's the smallest 7'3" guy that gets a lot of money in the NBA. But maybe they go with the 7'3" guy. We get the short guy. But if we can get Marcus Smart in the deal too, then all of a sudden we got a really good defender on the perimeter who can knock down threes. So, Pete, KP was more interested in strip clubs. This isn't his – I don't think there's a super passion for Porzingis in this sport. But that's what I think. Chris, the Clippers are Luka's Detroit Pistons. We took a step forward this season. Congrats, Mavs, on a good season. Chris, I like the optimism there. Maybe that's the case, but I don't think we're better than Utah. I was going to pick Utah in 5, possibly 6. If Mavs win this game, maybe I go, hey, I'm all excited. Utah in 6, but they're a much better team than us. I think Phoenix is a little bit better than us right now. I think LA, if healthy's better than us. Clippers are obviously better than us. They just proved they're better than us. I think we're maybe a hair better than Portland. We're not better than Denver. Denver's better than us. So that's the issue. That's what Mark Cuban and Donnie Nelson have to look at. If we bring back this team, are we better than Utah? No. Are we better than Phoenix? Probably not. Are we better than Denver Nuggets? No. Are we better than the LA Lakers? No. Are we better than the Clippers? Obviously not. Are we better than Portland? We're right on par, but they're probably going to make some pretty big moves there. So, maybe it hurts Portland. Maybe it helps Portland. Are we better than Golden State if they get Klay Thompson back? They have the 6th and 14th pick in this year's draft. Not saying those draft picks help now, but what if they trade the 6th pick and 14th pick and do get another good player to go along with possibly Klay Thompson coming back and Steph Curry with 3 or 4 more years probably left of playing high-level basketball. So, you look at it, Memphis is an up-and-coming team. I think we're better than them. I think we're better than New Orleans. I think we're better than Sacramento, even though they beat us every time. So, that puts us in, we'll be fighting right now, and I think it'll be a much different looking team next year. But right now, if we brought back this team, we'd be fighting for the 5 through 9 seed next year. So we'd somewhere between 5th and 9th is what this team is. And they can never get better than that because the only way to get better, I think, is for Luka to average playoff time 50 and 20. And if he's averaging 20 assists, then that means we got better from our role players because as Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson, I think he had 14 assists tonight. Like, he should have 20. Like, he gives his guys so many wide open looks that they miss. So if Luka was ever – I'm on record as this. If Luka ever gets the right players around him, really good players around him, the right team, I think he can average 15 assists a game. He would probably go down to 25 points a game, which isn't – it's close to 30. But I think in the playoffs he would be more like 24 and 15 instead of having to go 40 and 15. It's too much to ask of anybody. I said this on Twitter. I'll say it here. I don't think Jordan in 1993 could have been dropped on this Dallas Mavericks, take Luka off this team, and use these guys and win. Maybe I'm wrong. Luka's not as good as Jordan in his prime. I'm not trying to say that. I don't think LeBron in 2013 could have done anything with this team. He would definitely ask out of this situation in a heartbeat. But I don't think the best players in the history of basketball, if you give them Porzingis, Dorian Finney-Smith, Tim Hardaway Jr., Brunson, Kleba, Powell, Melly, you can't win. You cannot beat. You can win if you get a high enough seed and you play a bad team. You know, you play the Boston Celtics this year in the playoffs, Washington Wizards. You know, and Memphis Grizzlies aren't a bad team, but you get what I'm saying. Like, you get such a high seed that you get to play one of the teams that barely made the playoffs. Yeah. You can win. I think Luka can beat those teams right now in the NBA playoffs. But when you match up against a team that's a contender, Jordan, LeBron, Luka, Wilt, they can't win with these guys around. If Portland has a fire sale, do you think the Mavs could grab McCollum? Remember, Yvonne, they're going after a championship, so their fire sale would be to really put a championship team around Lillard. So they're not selling Lillard, so they're going to try to, go after it. But my battery's dying a little bit here. I'm just going to plug it in because I don't want to end this yet, guys. You guys are doing great. Thanks for your chat. We got 86 in the live. Give me just 1 minute here. Let me find my charger. Got it. Got the charger. Plugging it in now. Hopefully this gets us going for another 30 minutes or so, guys. There we go. Says here. Sorry, let's see. Frankie says Mavs have the worst GM. I just maybe you're right. Obviously, if you listen to me on The Fan, I'm very tough on Jerry Jones, and I think he's one of the worst ever. Donnie is limited. Mark Cuban is somewhat Jerry Jones. So I guess when you guys start talking about Donnie, just know that there's a big piece of the Mavericks that is it's Mark Cuban as the general manager more than Donnie Nelson. But I'm not saying Donnie doesn't do anything. I think he does a lot and makes a lot of phone calls and tries to pull off a lot of trades and does a lot of things. But I think ultimately it is somewhat a Mark Cuban general manager, and then Donnie has a lot of say in what happens. So what big guy could we get? Realistically, Rashawn Holmes is a free agent from Sacramento, high energy guy. He's probably going to be around $20 million a year. He had a bad year this year. Montrezl Harrell is probably going to opt out. I can't imagine, unless he just wants to live in LA and doesn't care about his role. I don't think the Lakers want him back that much. And I think he signed a 2-year, $18 million contract, which I was shocked when he did that. But he said, I just want to stay in LA. I turned down bigger deals to stay in LA. I wanted to stay in LA. Maybe he just wants to stay in LA. But I think Harrell, think about how much better Harrell is than Dwight Powell. No contest. And when the Mavs homers brag about Dwight Powell, what if Dwight Powell was good? Luka's doing everything for Dwight Powell. So if we get a good player in Dwight Powell's role, what's the limit? The ceiling is the roof. What's the ceiling if Dwight Powell's role was played by a better Dwight Powell? Austin, I just don't get how we played a 2-3 zone against the number 1 3-point shooting team. You know what? They figured it out, and I was worried about that. You make a good point, Austin. Eventually, NBA teams that are as good as the Clippers, they're going to figure that out. But it just shows how limited Rick thought his team was, and I believe too. He never did this, and I get it. He's not a big, and this is why I think people get mad at Rick. He is not a big rookie guy when he has a good team. Josh Green has the athleticism and size that he might not have the ability yet to play in this series, and he never did. But we better pray and hope Josh Green and Tyler Bay, the 36th overall pick in the Josh Richardson trade, Seth Curry trade, that those guys can help, because they're 6'6", 6'7" wing guys that are athletic, stronger. It's tougher to develop on a winning team. Dorian Finney-Smith got to develop on a crap team for 3 years with the Dallas Mavericks until, they got Luka. Then, he had developed those 3 years. He couldn't play in the NBA, couldn't shoot a shot better than most of us when he entered the NBA. But, now he's not a bad three-point shooter. He's not good, but he's not bad. So when I look at it that way, Josh Green needs to become a rotational player, obviously needs to become better. Hopefully we see some good signs in Summer League. Summer League can fool you a little bit. Same with Tyler Bay, same with Tyrell Terry. But, yeah, I think the 2-3 zone was figured out by a team that can shoot threes, hit their threes today. Much better team talent-wise. We just have one of the greatest players in the history of basketball. And Kawhi is right now. Kawhi won't go down as one of the greatest in history, but, he's in his prime and great right now. But, we have the next Jordan, the next Larry Bird, the next whoever, the guy who's for 5 to 7 years going to dominate the NBA as do more than what he's doing on this team. But individually, can he come back in better shape next year, change his body a little bit, be a better free throw shooter? But, he is a guy playoff-wise that gets you 40 points and gives your team 20 easy baskets a night off of his pass. It's just that we don't make them all, and probably 25. He probably gives us 25 great looks, and nobody's going to hit all 25 of them. But we usually hit 12 of 25 wide-open shots, which gives him 12 assists. Today he had 14. So we made 14 of the 25 wide-open looks he gave this team. Pandemic Porzingis, hopefully we move him, get rid of him. There's plenty of teams, I think, that will take him, but it's going to be for a discounted rate. Just understand that, Maverick fans. I don't know if the Orlando Magic want him at all, but I asked him, hey, Jonathan Isaac blew out his knee, 6'10" wing guy, has potential. Jonathan Isaac and Wendell Carter Jr. Bam, here's KP. I'll go 2 for 1, 2 guys that are younger, and I'll see one guy super hurt, see if he's coming back. I'd rather do that than bring KP back. That's an option. But Wendell Carter Jr. and Jonathan Isaac will never be number 2 guys on a championship team. But I'd rather have those 2 guys than bring back Porzingis. Just for example of a trade you guys probably don't like to hear, but that's probably the value of Porzingis. Brandon Mitchell. What about a team trying to rebuild who will take on KP's contract? Yes, I just went over that, Brandon. Kyle says he would take that trade from the Orlando Magic at this point. Obviously, I've brought up Sacramento, Marvin Bagley, and Rashawn Holmes. In a sign and trade, Holmes is a free agent. We give him 4 years, $80 million. That's probably overpaying him a little bit. And then we get Marvin Bagley, who's been a major bust as the number 2 overall pick. And he's been hurt a lot in his career, but, and he's a 12-7 guy, just like Porzingis in the playoffs. But I get 2 really athletic guys there. I get defense, I get athleticism. Bagley's horrible on defense, but maybe we can get him better. But he's like a better version of Brandon Wright right now. More in the history of basketball than Luka. I would say LeBron was asked to do that much at times in Cleveland in his first stint there. Jordan was asked to do that his first 3 to 4 years in the NBA, and then by 1989, it started changing a little bit, but still not a lot. 1990, it changed quite a bit. And 91, obviously, Horace Grant and Pippen had developed into major players, and he got the help that he needed. In about 1989, you could see, okay, Horace Grant is developing, Pippen's developing into a borderline all-star player, took the major jump in 90, 91. And we don't have Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen. That's not Josh Green and Tyler Bay. We didn't draft Horace Grant and Scottie Pippen. So I don't know how we get to that point. So you think Monk and Washington is a possible pick and pop with the ball? I like Monk a lot out of college. He's done very little in Charlotte. We would take literally anything for KP. Can't be selective. I agree, Kevin. Just whatever. We're trading them. Tell the NBA we're trading them. We're taking everybody's offer. We'll pick the best offer, and you can have them. I think Luka is good enough where we don't need a true number 2. We can get by with 2B and a strong 3. I don't disagree. I think this could be like an Iverson team, you'd love. The one thing is Luka has to handle the ball less. There has to be another major threat with the ball in their hands. We have no threat with the ball in their hands with a live dribble because nobody can dribble on this team besides one guy. So when nobody else is a threat, and so you don't have to look at that guy. You're like, hey, you got him. I'm going to make sure that I am watching the ball in my man. And then, everybody make sure just stick on Luka. Don't even watch the ball if you're guarding Luka. Just make sure that you stick on Luka. Then if he passes it back to Luka, all 4 guys have an idea where your guy is because Luka's a great passer, but don't worry about it too much. Just all focus on Luka. You guard him as tight as you can, and we're playing a box and 1. At times, the Clippers, I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, and they didn't go to zone, but it was like a box and 1. So they were playing like a soft triple team on Luka in the second half. It's tough. That is tough his fatigue got there. It's tough to score another 20-plus points when teams are playing soft triple teams on you. Hey, you want to spin this way? Got a guy there. You want to go that way? Got a guy there. I have 2 guys waiting on you on both sides. Which side do you want to go to? And that's when Luka at times does fadeaways or does this and that. What if Luka had a better team and they couldn't do that to him all the time? Because he's such a great passer. And then if he had better teammates, he does pass the ball when the ball needs to be passed. He makes the right play. Maybe it's the wrong play. I even texted K&C and said, stop passing at one point because he turned the ball over. I'm like, just shoot it every time. They're not good enough to help you anyways. Nikki says Luka needs a big, strong guy. Yeah. Derek Harper talked about that during the series. He was on Jay Will and Keyshawn and talked about they're missing a Rasheed Wallace, Dennis Rodman type of player on the team. Better rebounding. Jose agreed. Porzingis, terrible rebounder. Kleba, terrible rebounder. Dwight Powell, terrible rebounder. I guess I didn't mention Willie Cauley-Stein earlier in the big man rotation, but you saw Willie play 0 minutes tonight. He's a 0 minute in the NBA guy. Sacramento didn't like him. Golden State didn't like him. We barely like him, I guess. So defense was horrible. 70 points at half. You score 62 and you're down by 8. But Hardaway's not a good defensive player. Luka is an average defensive player. And he might be even a little bit better if we didn't ask him to do everything offensively. I'm not saying he'll ever be Kawhi Leonard or first team or second team all defense, but he's not bad. He's actually an average defender. KP's pathetic. Kleba's good, solid. Josh Richardson's okay. Brunson's very limited, not good. Powell's horrible. Who am I missing? Dorian Finney-Smith is solid, but not, Dorian Finney-Smith isn't. Dorian Finney-Smith, I don't think will ever make any NBA, all NBA first team or second team, all defensive team, but he's solid. He's a solid defender, but overall, we're a very bad defensive team. The front office had a goal in the offseason to get tougher and better defensively. Failed. Yeah, Conrad, that's true. They didn't do a whole bunch, though. Hopefully Josh Green and Tyler Bay can help that. And I know I throw in Tyler Bay, and people are like, 36 pick. But I do like what I see from him in potential. But potential is a horrible word to have. You usually have it if you don't really play much in the NBA in your first or second year because you're saying, I think he might be able to be as good as we think he could be, but he's done doodly squat. Like potential means you've done nothing, but we're hoping that you can become something. So potential is not a good word to have. It's not like we say, boy, Luka has a lot of potential. We can say the potential of KP and Luka together, but really what we're saying is KP should be better because he's done nothing. So we'll use the word potential. Potential, you have to use it, but it's not a great word to have on you. You want to lose that and become he's a good player or he's a great role player. He's an all-star. Not he has potential. The Rangers have potential too. Thanks, Taylor. Yeah. Ricky, what does he say? He says, I'm having a hard time figuring out why a team would trade for KP and his contract. Well, Ricky, at the time, he had just made the All-Star team. He'd blown out his knee. I'm not going to crush the Mavericks for it. I like the trade. He's just not very good. And, he's had another knee surgery. We have 10 days off because of winter storm, and then his back hurts him and he can't play. He rolled his ankle. His wrist hurt at some point this year. Like, he's a fragile, soft, wussy player in this league. And we didn't know that when we traded for him. But now we know. Now we know. It stinks because we actually had to max him out, too, after trading for him. We had to give him the max contract. But now we know. He's not a very good player. I'll take the roast beef turkey, okay, with everything on it, hot peppers. Kids asking me what I want from Jimmy John's. I guess we're Jimmy John's in it tonight for dinner. So shout out, I guess. I don't get paid anything for that. But package KP, pal, and a second-round pick for a real number 2. Frankie, I went over that earlier. We're not getting a real number 2. KP will not bring that back. Teams do not see him. They see him as a nice player. Like, I think Sacramento could say, hey, we're losing Rashawn Holmes anyways, I think, unless they're going to give him the contract. Marvin Bagley has stunk it up for us. De'Aaron Fox isn't a great outside shooter. What if we get an outside shooter as a Bigfoot 7'3" guy? You have to do that. An Orlando team that says, God, maybe we could build around KP. Maybe he's better than people think. We don't really have anything that great anyways. What if we get him? Just throwing out, things. People brought up Boston before. They're a very small team. They lack size, even though all KP is 7'3". He doesn't play big. He plays like he's 6'5". So just because it says you're 7'3" doesn't mean you're 7'3", if that makes any sense. Hardaway 1 for 9 for 3. Nikki, yep. I know I get into it more off the air with Dawson. And when I say that, we just have discussions, Gavin Dawson, who's on G-Bag Nation, I get in discussions and because he loves Hardaway. And I'm just like, hey man, I like Hardaway, but you have to understand he's super streaky and he can kill you at times. And then he can really help you at times, but he's not consistent. If everybody got mad at playoff P last year and it wasn't just his first year to struggle in the playoffs. Oklahoma City, he struggled too and stuff like that. But like, we would take playoff P 100 times, even the struggle playoff P over Tim Hardaway Jr. So, and he's our second best player. So, Brandon, I think there is a way to use KP and other pieces to get Marketing and Duncan Robinson. Yeah, that'd be a 3-team trade. Marketing, to me, is very KP similar. So if you were to get Marketing on a deal like at $15 million per year, and he might not be that much, but let's just say 15, you're now getting over 50% off KP because we're just adding KP, and maybe Marketing gets hurt a lot, but maybe he's not as soft mentally and as fragile as KP is. So I would do that. I would, in a trade with Chicago, I don't think I would do KP for Martin and straight up, but maybe I would, because then I also open up about 15 more million in cap space. So maybe I just do that trade. They're probably over the cap after trading for Vujovic. So Vujicic, if I said that right, crap. But you probably have to match salaries a little bit more there because you probably can't give them more and take back less in that. But yeah, I might do that if it opened up even more money to spend on different players. No, I'm not reading that one about trading Luka. Marcus Smart would be awesome. Yes, Kyle, I agree with you. I think you're talking to Brandon in the text. Brandon, or should I say, do you think Marcus Smart would be a wise addition for the Mavs? Yeah, and if it was straight up, it can't be because of cap situation. Marcus Smart has 1 year left at about, I think, $13 million on his contract next year. I would trade KP for Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart's a better player in the NBA. Boston has Tatum, Brown, Marcus Smart. I think even Kemba Walker are better than KP. I mean, just think about that. Boston, and they had a horrible year. I think Boston has 4 players better than KP. Where do the Mavs go from here? Antonio, they got to make a lot of moves. This is not a good team. With a great player, yes, but not a good team. Yeah, as Ricky comes in, Boston could be a great trade partner. I agree, man. But there has to be a lot of moves. I think, obviously, if you look at New Orleans, I'm not saying we should trade with New Orleans, but New Orleans probably looks at their team and go, so Zion in his second year, first full season, we didn't even compete for a playoff spot. We didn't even come close to 10th place. So I think New Orleans is a team that's going to be wanting to make quite a bit of moves. Portland's going to be making quite a bit of moves. I think Boston will be a team trying to make quite a bit of moves. New York Knicks have about 50 to 60 million in cap space. They could be making quite a few moves. That's just to name some off the top of my head. I think the Lakers are going to tweak their team. So I don't think they're making major moves, but you never know. All it takes is one guy saying, I want to be with the Lakers, and the Lakers get what they want when they want it. Clippers, if they lose to Utah, you could see them go in a major different direction. And, maybe they look at Paul George and go, we have to get something better than Paul George or something that fits better if they lose to the Utah Jazz. Well, that's the season. It was good. I guess we got 5th place with tiebreakers, right? We finished 7th place last year. We tie for 5th, 6th, 7th, but have the tiebreaker to be 5th. So you improve your seeding by 2 spots. You take Clippers to 7 games instead of 6, but you're out in the first round. So I don't want to say this was a successful season. In fact, right now, I'm a little discouraged with the future of this team because of the lack of talent around. But that can all change this offseason. If the Mavs make 2 to 4 trades, they do have free agent money. Like I said, I'm not a big – we've got to bring back Tim Hardaway Jr. The Mavericks have kind of been on record. We're not going to let him get away, which means I think you're going to have to get him $20 million a year to win the bidding. That might not be the best way to use your assets, to be honest, because if once you do that, you're down to approximately $10 million unless Josh Richardson opts out, who doesn't bring much to the table, at least this year. So what about the non-backcourt violation call? Taylor, when I played in most of the NBA that I've watched, that is a violation, but I guess I'll go with Steve Javie. I mean, I'd hate if you're supposed to be the guy on ABC that says, is this legal or not legal? And you know it's illegal and you just agree with what the ref called just to even confuse us fans more, then that's a horrible job. But if Steve Javie's right, if Mike Breen is right, if that referee is right, you can do that. You were not allowed to do that. You can't do that in high school. I'm 100% sure of that. I don't think you can do that in college. But if they change the rule in the NBA to you can catch the ball in the front court, but if your momentum takes you to the back court, they don't care, then I guess that's the rule in the NBA. And Mark Jackson is like, obviously he played 20 years in the NBA. That was a violation when he played. But if they change the rule, they change the rule. Can we get DeMar and trade KP for Al in Oklahoma City? I would hate to just get Al Horford at his age. He's 36 years old for just KP. So I wouldn't do that. I would want another piece from Oklahoma City in that. And like I said the other night, they have 37 draft picks. You can't use all 37. You can't even use all 17 or 18 first-round picks. So I would want more than just Al Horford for KP, but I would consider doing that. I think DeMar DeRozan, I would rather have him than Tim Hardaway Jr. Just to be honest with you guys, if it came down to you can have DeMar DeRozan or Tim Hardaway Jr., I would rather have DeMar DeRozan than Tim Hardaway Jr. Nothing against Tim Hardaway Jr. in that. I just think DeMar DeRozan's a better player overall. But that doesn't make us a second-round team. If we were to add DeMar DeRozan to this team, I think it makes us better. I do, and I just don't think it elevates us to where we need, which is that doesn't mean we don't do it. We do it, then go, we got to make more moves. We're not close because Dwight Powell shouldn't be on this team next year. Kleba should be on the bench next year as a supplemental piece. KP should not be on this team next year. Brunson should have competition with Tyrell Terry. I think he'd win that competition pretty easily. But if we need to trade Brunson, you drafted a dude 31st overall. Give him a chance. Trey Burke should not be on this team next year unless he's just watching games and there's major injuries and he can play because Josh Green needs to be in the rotation next year to see what he can give us. Tyrell Terry could be in the rotation if you move Brunson. I don't think the Mavs are going to move Brunson because they're so in love with him as a person. Boban needs more development. Well, he is what he is, man. He's huge. He's an old school center. who's very limited in his ability to play at this level. Warriors still interested in KP. Yvonne, I hope so. That's another team that seemed interested in him at the trade deadline. Maybe now that this offseason has happened. I'm not crazy about this. Let's talk about this. Golden State has Klay Thompson coming back next year. I don't think he'll ever be the same after the major injuries he suffered back-to-back years. But he comes back. They right now have Minnesota's pick, which is 6th overall. If it falls into the top 3, they lose it. It goes back to Minnesota. But if it falls anywhere 6 through 9, they have that pick. Golden State also has the 14th pick, their own pick. So right now they have the 6th pick and the 14th pick and Klay Thompson coming back. That sounds pretty good, right? James Wiseman, second-year player next year. They're probably hoping he improves a whole bunch. Or when we talk about making trades and going and getting a number 2 guy, what if the Golden State Warriors – I don't know this, and it probably won't happen. Okay, I'm just going to throw this out. Karl Anthony Towns says, I'm not playing for Minnesota anymore. I'm not showing up. And they say, well, Minnesota will give you back your pick, the 6th pick. We'll give you the 14th pick, and we'll give you James Wiseman. They might need to do a little bit more. They might need to give a little bit more in a trade, but that's what we're up against in trade situations, right? Like Golden State should trade the 6th and 14th pick. They shouldn't draft those guys. They're not going to help. Steph Curry has about 3, maybe 4 more years of greatness left in him. They need to capitalize on these next 3 to 4 years, not draft a guy 6th and 14th who can barely play in the NBA their rookie year, be better in their second year, and then start looking like really contributing players in their third year that might end up being like a potential all-star. Okay, well, now Steph Curry's career is almost over. Now, I guess if you just want to bridge the gap, but I think that Golden State's going to push and try to become a championship contending team over the next 3 to 4 years. And they need to do that by trading the 6th pick, the 14th, possibly Wiseman. Obviously, Wiggins is a guy that they might try to move. I would love to have him here. If we could, this is probably asking too much. Golden State fans laugh at us, but maybe Golden State would do this, is could we get Wiggins and Wiseman for Porzingis? And I'll throw in another player. Show where I'm at on Brunson. I wouldn't be opposed to doing KP and Brunson for Wiseman and Wiggins, and then possibly doing some other things around Luka. Rafa, I would want to hold on to KP one more year. Rafa, you're the only person in here that does. If the 90 people in here want to, you can tell me that we should hold on to KP because he's going to be good next year. He's just going to be hurt. He's going to be hurt, not going to be able to play all the games. We're going to lose chemistry, and then if he was healthy, and we were almost getting there. Nothing to do with KP. Get rid of him. Whatever you want to call it, 50 cents on the dollar, 25 cents on the dollar, whatever. Get rid of Porzingis. Do you think if we package Brunson with KP – no, we're not going to get number 2, guys. We can get Wiseman and Wiggins. Do you think Wiseman and Wiggins is a number 2? Do you think Kemba Walker or Marcus Smart's a number 2? I don't. They're never going to be – well, shouldn't say it. Kemba Walker was an all-star. But that's what you can do, stuff like that. So if you think Kemba Walker is a true number 2, then yeah. But if you're talking Paul George type, if you're talking Rudy Gobert type, like those two teams match up in the next round. Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. What's going on the other side? Chris Paul, Devin Booker. And then you're looking at – he's out, so Jamal Murray's out. So you're looking at, I guess, Michael Porter Jr. as your number 2, which is a weak number 2, right? Right now, I think he can develop into that, but Jamal Murray's out. So, no, I mean, we're not getting Jamal Murray, even though I wouldn't want him right now because he's going to miss most of next year too. But, like if you're like, hey, we need to get a guy like Jamal Murray, well, good luck trying to get him. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe this will be like, wow, I can't believe we did what we did. But Patrick says, it's Mr. Clean. Yeah, I did. I shaved yesterday. It is what it is. My last hope, I'll read Rafa one more time. My last hope is that he didn't get hurt in the playoffs. Yes, I understand he wasn't efficient in the series. Can we imagine if we were the Warriors when Curry had the bad ankles? All right. Rafa, You are a man of optimism. So, Joseph, even if we don't get even close to equal value, just give me flexible pieces in lieu of KP. I'm right there with you, Joseph. Brandon says, it just seems like Mavs have too many guys who think they are something more than what they are. Richardson and KP mainly. I think there's value in knowing your role. Yeah, I think there's value in also Donnie Nelson and Mark Cuban knowing they don't have a good team around Luka, not anywhere close to a good team. So hopefully you have to lie as a general manager, as a president, as an owner. You have to lie and say your team's great or does this or does that. But the reality is behind closed doors, you know who's good and who's not good. And hopefully behind closed doors, the Mavericks know that they don't have a very good team around Luka. Patrick says, I love you. I love you too, Patrick, man. Thanks for joining us. This is fun, kind of therapy for all of us to get this off of our chest as season ends for the Mavericks as they get blown out in Game 7. Luka has 46. I don't know you guys, but I was wanting him to just lay the ball in to get 48 to set the record for most points in a Game 7 in the NBA history. But, yeah, 46 and 14. I think he had 7 rebounds. I don't have the box score pulled up. I don't really care too much to pull it up. Just he was great. He gave us a chance when people are like, I wish he would we'll hear this tomorrow because I can't remember if it was Corey or Kevin who was like, I wish he would conserve his energy in the first half, okay? Because, he goes all out in these first half. He's averaging over 21 points in the series. And then in the second half, he's averaging, I think it was 12, if I have it right. I think he was, he averaged 21 first half. And then he averaged, I believe, 12 in the second half going into today. What I would say to that is if he were to conserve himself, that's a great plan. I agree that that's a great plan. If he would have conserved himself today, we're down by 20 at halftime. So Luka's like, hey, I'm not going to use all my energy in the first half. I'm going to let this play out. I'm going to play kind of, back a little bit. I'm not going to go all out. Well, we're down 70 to 50 at half. All right, Luka, you ready to destroy him now? You conserved your energy, right? You didn't use it all up in the first half. And he does have to get in better shape, but you understand what Luka has to do. He has to score 29 points and 5 assists or 7 assists in the first half. And he had to do that on a consistent basis just to give us a chance to win in the second half. That's how bad his teammates are, is he has to be a Hall of Famer in the first half, as in if he didn't play a second in any of these games in the second half, he's a 27-8 guy. 27-8 and about 4 or 5 rebounds. Those are Hall of Famers. If you average that for your career in the playoffs and you have a long career and you average 27 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, and let's just say that's your regular season numbers and you carry that over into the playoffs because he's only doing that in the first half, you're a Hall of Famer. You're one of the 100 greatest players in the history of basketball. You're maybe even trying to break into the top 50 players of all time. And he has, on this team with this lack of talent, he is asked to say that's not enough. You going for 27-8 in the first half is not enough. Can you also do it again in the second half? And if you can't, we're going to lose. And that's why we lost the series for the most part. They changed their defense in the second half, right? He's more tired, but they do change their defense up. They double team him more. They rush him a little bit more. They also soft triple team him a little bit more where he sees if I go left, they got a helper right there. As soon as I go hard that way, if I go right, they got a helper over there. So they have 2 guys. Here's Luka getting guarded, Then they got a guy here that's really not guarding his guy that's way out here. He's like helping right here. Like, I don't care. You can pass it there. I'm just going to stop you. I'm going to try to. And then there's a guy over here. So if you spin back and go this way, I'm helping you. You can kick it here, but I'm not going to let you get to the basket as easily as we've let you. And not that they were trying to, but not as easily as they let you in the first half. So I was talking to my buddy Chris Owens, who played 13 years overseas, All-American at UT, played a year for Memphis Grizzlies. And he's like, the only reason they've won a game in this series is because of Luka. That he was telling me the Clippers are so much more talented than the Mavericks. It's not even close, but you have Luka. So Luka gives you a chance in this. But that's a former professional player for a long time giving his opinion on watching the series is literally this isn't a contest, but Luka gives you a chance because of how great he is. Luka better not waste a decade of his talent with a bad team. He'll end up like Lillard. That's a possibility. That's a real possibility. That's why, to be honest, I am thinking about getting a half-season package next year. I can't do all 40 games or 41 games. I just don't have the time, energy, can't give them away enough because then I'm losing a lot of money, and I don't want to work that hard on selling them. But I was thinking about getting like a 20-game package so I can get the playoff tickets. I had a blast at Game 3 and Game 6, but I'm waiting for this offseason to play out. If they bring back KP, I'm not buying a ticket. And nothing against the Mavericks. It doesn't mean I hate the Mavericks or not rooting for them. I'm just not going to spend $200 a game approximately, $4,000. I'm not spending $4,000 to watch this team come back. I'll watch them on television. I'll go to the games for, a few games. I'll special games that my kids want to go to. I know one of my boys really does like Donovan Mitchell. It's not his favorite player, but we'd go to like a Utah Jazz game, try to hit another game that, they like Trae Young. They like some other guys. We're like, hey, I got tickets for that, but I'm not paying $4,000 if they bring back this team. Won't do it. It'll be a first-round exit again, unless Luka can average next year in the playoffs 50 points. I'll say 15 assists because then we still wouldn't be good enough to get him the 20 assists that he deserves. 50, 15, and 10. And that's impossible for a human being to do that, even though today I couldn't believe when they said Bill Russell averaged 40 rebounds. Or no, he got 40 rebounds in a Game 7. He got 40 rebounds in a game, and it was a Game 7? I mean, I kind of want to watch that game. I have no clue if that game was recorded or not, but I need to see how you get 40 rebounds in a basketball game on your own. How will you comment on the comparison between Trae Young and Luka? Young is now at a second round and just got a game against the Sixers today. Totally get it. Trae Young's great. Luka's way better. Lillard's better. Harden's better. Curry's better if I didn't name Curry or Lillard. Curry, Lillard, Harden, Luka. They're all way better. He gets into the conversation as fifth best point guard in the NBA, and he's great. But that team is leaps and bounds better. I was listening to national radio today in the car, and they were talking about Trae Young, and they were like, and they actually had this discussion. And it wasn't local radio; it was national radio, and they're just like, Trae Young, you don't understand how great of a job they've done building that team around him. John Collins is better than anybody Luka has on this team. Clint Capella is better than anybody that Luka has on this team. DeAndre Hunter is arguably better than anybody the Mavs have on this team. Bogdanovich is as good, or I think I'll say he's as good as Tim Hardaway Jr. on this team. Herter is a marksman that we don't have on this team. Trae Young has a million better pieces on his team than Luka does. If Luka was in Atlanta, I think they could possibly win. They could make the NBA Finals. It's not even close, and maybe that goes to they have Lou Williams off the bench, too. Lou Williams is a better scorer than Tim Hardaway Jr. That's been proven throughout history. So, yeah, they're way better. That's Trae Young. Congratulations. And Trae Young's a great player. I don't want to take anything away from him. He didn't even make the All-Star team this year, but great player. Great decision by the Atlanta Hawks to fire their coach. They've been great ever since they fired their coach. Nate McMillan's their coach now and done a great job. So, but Trae's not in the conversation with Luka. I get what he's done. He's won a playoff series already. He's won Game 1 in round 2. So I get where you're coming from. I don't want to knock Trae Young. I love watching him, one of our favorite players here in our household. But, there's no comparison. You can ask any NBA player. You can ask any NBA general manager. You can ask anybody who's NBA-wise, and they say, look, Trae Young's a very good player, but it's no comparison. What do we have here? Jonathan Clint locks down the paint. Look, I would trade in a heartbeat. Like I would trade Porzingis for Capella in a heartbeat. There's 100 players I would trade Porzingis for. 100, maybe even 150, to be honest. 30 teams, 5 starters per team, 150 guys. It's probably too much to say 150, but 100. There's 100 guys I'd rather have in this league than Porzingis next year. Would you want Seth Curry back? He doesn't want to be back here. He wasn't crazy about his role. So he has a better role in Philadelphia just because, he spreads the court for them. He's their main spread the court guy. Get Danny Green there too and Tobias Harris. But he fits a little bit better there than here. Not that he didn't fit here, but he's a better fit in Philadelphia. And Hardaway shouldn't have played better than KP. Jonathan, well, he didn't today, right? I mean, KP, who was horrible again, he did play better than Hardaway, I think. Maybe there's an argument there. Maybe they both played poorly together. The Blazers fired their coach too. Yeah, well, they fired their guy. They're probably getting Jason Kidd from what it sounds like, maybe Chauncey Billups from rumors. Blake agrees with me. Luka, if he had the Hawks roster, they would be in the finals. I think he'd have a great chance to get to the finals. All right, well, I got to do it tomorrow on the radio. If you want to join me from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on The Fan, we'll be talking about the end of the season. The weekends went really bad here in Dallas the last 2 weekends. Friday, lose game 3. Friday, lose game 6. Sunday, lose game 4. Sunday, lose game 7. Season over. Time for the Mavs front office to redo the whole thing around Luka. This needs to be a major rebuilding around Luka. And I don't mind if we take a step back this year either. I need to make sure that's clear. It doesn't have to be a better team next year. If we can get rid of Porzingis and maybe build towards the future too. But Luka has another 4 years here, and then he can get out of here if he wants. So you have a little bit of time there, but major things need to happen with this Dallas Maverick team. We'll get Cuban on the show soon. I think he wants to, be more heard locally. So we'll probably, not this week, but maybe next week or something, we'll try to contact him and say, hey, whenever you'd like, we'd love to have an end of the season, end of the playoffs conversation with you. All right, guys, that's the season. Thanks for joining me for a little over an hour. That was fun. And, season ends for 29 teams. It ends somewhat like this. I didn't think they'd beat the Clippers. Then I thought they'd beat the Clippers. Then I didn't think they'd beat the Clippers. Then I think they beat the Clippers. And then I didn't think they'd beat the Clippers. And in the end, they didn't beat the Clippers. Second round, not going to be as interesting to me, obviously. I'll watch here and there, but I won't be as locked in. But because I'm disappointed right now, it's just tough to 2 nights from now to be like all locked in on Utah Clippers, rooting for Utah. But all right, guys and girls, man, you guys are the best. See you soon. I'll do some more lives as basketball, baseball, football. Obviously, I'll talk a lot of sports cards too. So if you like sports cards, I'm going to try my best to give good content. So I'm learning this YouTube stuff. So if I'm doing a bad job at it, maybe I'll get better at it. Maybe I'll figure it out. All right, guys, girls. See ya.